Hello and welcome to another episode of the Leaders in STEM podcast from Intergage. My name is Paul Moss and I'm the Business Development and Partnerships Director here. Today's guest on Leaders in STEM is Matt Bradney, Chair of the Composite UK Skills and Workforce Development Working Group and Director of Business Development at Prodrive Composites. Matt has over 25 years experience in composites, with 16 of those at Prodrive. And no surprise, he lives and breathes the industry. So welcome to the podcast, Matt.
Thank you very much, Paul, and really pleased to be here. It's looking forward to this. Should be a good conversation.
Excellent. It's a pleasure to have you on board. So, Matt, first things first, let's, if we can, explore a little bit about your sort of personal and professional background and your career to date.
I was thinking about this question. A career today. It's careers, I suppose. This is not my first career, nor was it my first choice when I was in school. If I go back to when I was in school, so that was the 1970s and 1980s, where there was no internet. If you wanted to communicate with somebody, you spoke to them, or you got into a telephone box, or if you were lucky enough, you had a landline and you rang people. And at school, I wasn't very academic. I was probably lacking in a bit of direction more than anything else. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And as a consequence, I didn't do very well at my exams. I basically failed all of them first time round, then had to spend another year at school retaking those, and still didn't do fantastic out of it. But I got enough to scrape by and to go off and into the next steps. And during that time, I had a conversation with one of the neighbours where I lived, and he was an architect. And I thought, yeah, I quite like buildings. And so I went off into the world of construction, really. And I did a couple of years in the at college, learning about how buildings are made. And I thought, I could be an architect. That sounds quite good. After those couple of years, and I looked at the course for being an architect, and it was something like 7 or 8 years at university. I thought, I couldn't do that. Couldn't do that, and I wasn't very good at drawing. And so I kind of drifted off into testing ready-mix concrete, which there was the upside of that was it gave me a company van, so I was able to drive around the country testing ready-mix concrete. But it was you never met anybody really other than people on construction sites, so it wasn't the greatest thing for social life. And I did that for a few years, and again did some, went back to college and got some industry relevant qualifications, because one of the things that my father always said to me when I'd kind of come back from school with my poor exam results, he said, whatever you do, just keep learning. Is the gateway to anything and everything. And I says, yeah, fair enough. So that's why I did. I could have just done the job and got on with it, and just did my 9 to 5, but that didn't. I did want to learn, and I knew it wasn't. I wasn't going to be doing that role for the rest of my life. Really, I wasn't sure what I was going to do next. And as it turned out, it was something completely different. I went into the world of banking, of all things. At the time, I still do live in Leeds, and Leeds had the headquarters of quite a provincial bank. Really, it was called the Yorkshire Bank. But it did have branches elsewhere outside of Yorkshire, but it certainly had a very large concentration in Yorkshire. And I went for an interview for a job, and they says, "Oh, do you want to work in the cash centre?" Which is effectively a giant safe. And when I mean giant, it's about the size of a football pitch, but it is no windows, no, 1 or 2 very high security doors, moving coins and blocks of pound notes around. And I thought that was not really for me, having been working outside to working indoors without any natural light whatsoever. I didn't think that was going to be a long-term thing. And they says, oh well, you might want, we've got some vacancies in one of the branches. So I went on they gave me a training course, and I went to work in a branch, working in the back office. At that time, you were processing documents, so if somebody paid in a check, you'd have to manually process that through, and there was lots of bureaucracy. But what it did give you was a potential career path.
Right.
And that's, I kind of noted this and kind of got stuck in, and again went off to night school and did the relevant training courses, some of which again I wasn't overly successful with, but I kept on going. I was perseverance. That was my thing. I just kept going, and I worked my way up to reasonably senior level within the branch, not managerial level. And I'd moved a couple of branches, and because that's what happened, they moved you around, which helped because you got experience in different branches dealing with different socioeconomic groups, and then came this big thing about selling, and it was at a time when they were selling personal loans, and if you came in for a personal loan, if you wanted to borrow £300, whatever it was, you walked out with a credit card and an introduction to a mortgage advisor who could advise the person on getting a mortgage. And then aligned with all of that was personal payment or payment protection insurance.
Oh, yes.
And I was pretty good at selling that. In fact, I was very good at selling it. And as history has now said, that was missold. But it gave me a taste for selling, and the branches were targeted. We had all the graphs on the wall about how many personal loans we've written and how much the value of those is, and things like that. And it kind of, I seem to be quite good at this, so I kind of got to a level where you then need to make the step of going on to the managerial, either the managerial training or have a degree. And I didn't have a degree, never went to university. And I kind of decided at that time that it was a bit of a face fits, and I'm not sure my face fitted. And at the time I was playing rugby at a particular club, and there was one of the guys there was setting up a business to make things with this new material, or relatively new material, called carbon fiber, which I'd never heard of. But it sounded exciting, and he was talking to Formula One teams, and he was talking to helicopter manufacturers, and he kind of, the dreary world of banking had some appeal, but not a huge amount for me thereafter. But this sounded very exciting, albeit risky.
Was that local to you, Matt?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was very local. It was a local rugby club. He was going to set something up in West Yorkshire, but he was he was talking to the Formula One teams, and they're based generally in the central band of England. And then there was a helicopter manufacturer who was down in the southwest. But we were, the plan was to make parts in carbon fiber or composites for these types of companies, and he needed somebody to sell, and I thought, well, I did pretty well at selling PPI, maybe I can turn my hand to this. And it was genuinely a startup with no funding whatsoever. He scraped together. I used my own car. I think I did get given a mobile phone. They'd only just come out in those days. Right. And it was a case of, right, okay, just go get in touch with people. And I'd never had any formal training of selling whatsoever. So it was about me putting myself out there and going off and researching. And this was before internet. So I used to go to the local library and go read and research this out of a huge industrial directory called Kelly's, that you could go look up all these various companies, and then so you'd get their address and telephone number, and then it was a case of get on the telephone and find out who you need to speak to. And the first stage is to get an appointment to go see them, and then you've got to go see them. And so that was my role really, and it was exciting. I was traveling the country trying to persuade Formula One teams to spend some money with this company that had no real assets whatsoever.
So you're spending your days eating little chef big breakfasts and Minster's pasties then?
Sort of, yeah. It was life on the road, really. Yeah, it was the traditional way of. As I say, we had mobile phones, so we could communicate. But it was limited network, and it was a really exciting time. I was very fortunate in that I didn't have a great deal of responsibilities. I didn't have a mortgage or a family at that time. I was relatively young and still living at home, and so the risk to me at that making that jump was fairly limited in terms of the if things didn't work, and there were some signs that things weren't working because I had to pay. So I was going off and fueling this car and paying for hotels and things like that. And I'd put in various claims for my expenses back, and it'd take a long time to get paid back. And you kind of think, hang on, what's going on here? And then I stopped getting those payments back. And I was with him for about a year. And it was, as I say, it was very exciting, great in depth of knowledge of trying to build up this business. But as it turns out, towards the end, I could see the writing was on the wall. I then started talking to various people around the business. And it turns out that he borrowed money from lots and lots of people, and they weren't getting their repayment back.
Oh dear.
I then kind of had a phone conversation to say you've been made redundant. I said, so fair enough. Yeah, okay. It kind of came as a relief,
right.
In some respects. And I says, well, what about the money that you owe me? There's my salary that you supposed to have paid me, and the expenses, which had totted up to quite an amount of money. And he went, nah, I promise I'll pay you back one day.
Right.
And I never ever got that back. And it was about £6,000 or £7,000. So in that time, it was a decent sum of money. It was a lot of money, yeah. And he was. I later found out he was a convicted fraudster.
Oh dear.
And had served time for fraud elsewhere, and I reported it to the police, as did other people who'd loaned him significantly more amounts of money than I had, many tens of thousands, and there was no prospect of them ever getting their money back. And he was convicted, and I think went to prison, but I never saw anything more than £250 back from him to this day, and I've never come across him again, thankfully. But
that's unfortunate.
Well, it is and it isn't, and I think there's the old saying, isn't it? Every cloud has a silver lining. And I'm a great believer in that. And when things don't go right, and that to young people who think they look on the social media and everything is wonderful, that's not the real world. Things don't go right. Things don't go to plan, and you have to be resilient, and you have to be able to take those knocks and turn it to your advantage. And so I was unemployed for a little bit, but not that long. And I'd got in touch with some various recruitment agencies, and one of them rang me up and said, would you like, there's a company in North Yorkshire wanting somebody to be able to do composites, business development for them. And it was an aerospace company. And I thought, and they asked for various qualifications. And I said, look, I don't have any of these. I've spent a year in this industry, and I don't think I would be right for them. Which again was another risk. I could have jumped at it and taken it, and it may have gone down a different path. But I eventually was offered a job at a material company in the composites industry, who were based in Nottingham.
Right.
And I was with them for 6 years. So it's and then I moved on into manufacturing with another company before taking the position where I'm at now. So the cloud of redundancy and the cloud of being a victim of fraud and losing significant sums of money, actually, I've had a 26, I'm just totting it up this morning, 26, nearly 27-year, thoroughly enjoyable career in the most exciting industry I know of.
Yeah.
So while some people may think, if I come across this fraudster, I might punch him in the face, but I probably wouldn't. I might not shake his hand, but I would thank him. I might not have a watch, but I would thank him for showing me that there is a different thing, a different, an opportunity out there that he opened my eyes to what was available, and that to me is what people need in this day and age. They see lots of things on the internet, but actually something really close to you could be the most exciting thing, and you need to have an inquisitive mind, and that's what I had. So it worked out all right for me in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So somebody once said to me, "Be continually curious, and things will work out." And I think your pragmatic approach over the years is certainly testament to that. So, so if you can sort of give us a bit of a sort of a pitch on your current role at Prodrive, I'd be interested to learn a bit more about what you do.
Yeah, okay. So I joined Prodrive nearly 17 years ago now, and I was before I actually was offered the role, I'd obviously done some research on the business, and I joined as sales manager, and my role was to build the business from where it was to around £7 million, I think was the initial objective. I didn't actually know what its current turnover was when I joined,
right.
Because it was a trading division within a limited company, so there were no published figures for it. As it turns out, it had pretty much no work whatsoever,
Right.
which was a little surprising. But again, it's a challenge, and I think if people are presented with challenges, and if they have the right type of character and attitude, then actually that's the thing that makes it exciting. Somebody once said to me, a previous CEO of a business I worked for, said that I'd got no credibility in the composites industry, and he said this in front of my peers in engineers, and I just thought, right, thank you very much, you've just fired me up, you've just motivated me. And again, it's that people saying you can't when you can.
Yeah.
And most certainly. So yeah, I arrived at the business, and within about a month, the person who hired me left the business and proceeded to say that everybody I was about to be working for was not very good, and they would let me down. And I thought, yeah, okay, well, knuckle down, roll up your sleeves, get on with it. And we built it up gradually. So we were about 10 or 12 people when I first started. Today we are 167 people.
Okay.
So it's a fairly sizable business, about 12 to 14 million pounds turnover, of which I'm responsible for all of it. I get some assistance from my commercial director, because I live a long way away from Prodrive. Prodrive is based in Milton Keynes.
Yeah, I know it well. Every time I drive up the M1, I can see the site.
Yeah, it's there, and I live just outside Leeds, and I don't travel into work every day. I mainly work from home. I've worked from home for the whole time I've been in the composites industry. Long before working from home became a thing, I did it, and so my role is still the same. My job title has changed, but my role is still to go persuade customers to trust us, and to depend on us to deliver critical components to their programs, whatever that might be, whether that's a hypercar or whether it's an aircraft fuselage. And just by the way, we were the first ever company to make an all carbon fiber fuselage which carries a pilot that's 10 meters long. Fantastic achievement by a team of amazing engineers and technicians. Brilliant, just utterly brilliant. And by the way, we did it in 8 months.
Blimey.
Yeah, So it's a major achievement, but because it's a customer program, we can't openly talk about who that customer was or the intricacies of it. But there's some major achievements that the business has had throughout that. So yeah, my role is to basically the same, is to pester people to give us some work and to help grow our business and keep our all of our 167 people currently with a food on the plate, a roof over their house, and the ability to grow their family and social mobility. And that's what drives me to do it. It's not about money. Not interested. I've got myself to a position where I'm quite well paid, and I have a decent lifestyle, and it's about the people. That's what it's about.
Yeah. People don't have jobs unless people sell things. Well, make things and sell things. I mean, that's ultimately what we're all about.
Yeah, people make things, and so my responsibility is to every one of those people is to make sure that they've got something to make today, tomorrow, next week, and next year.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Matt, thank you for the background on your sort of very interesting route into industrial sales. I mean, as you know, Matt, mine's not dissimilar, but it's very, very sort of. We often come across some very esoteric and very interesting sort of routes into the sector, whether it's into commercial roles or into sort of engineering and R&D roles. But it always amazes me, the diversity of the backgrounds of the people involved. And I think in a way, as we discussed previously, Matt, I think that's one of the great things about this sector, that we both work in, is it's not just opportunities on the shop floor. There are opportunities in commercial roles, with back office, in finance, in sales, in marketing. And that's something that I think that's often overlooked. It's not all smokestacks and pollution and as it was perhaps back in the day.
I mean, manufacturing is an incredibly clean environment nowadays. It's not the environment that I was, led to believe it was back in the 70s and 80s. It really isn't. It's a very clean, very precise, and very structured environment. And it requires good people.
Yeah.
They don't have to have the skills. The relative industry will give them the skills. What they have to do is the stuff that requires no skills whatsoever, which is turn up on time with a good attitude. And there are obviously other things that you can do for free that require no skills, but just do those, and you will become a valuable employee, and therefore you will progress through that business, and that you will build yourself a great career. And that's all I do. I don't have any special training. I don't have any special skills. I don't consider myself to be a skilled person at all. I'm usually the least educated person in the room.
Right.
And that, young lad from Leeds who was considered thick at school. You could say it in the 70s, so you can't say it now. But I was considered thick at school, and I can turn around to most of those people I was alongside in school and say, well, I've done all right. And I didn't go to university. So it doesn't have to be. University is great if you can do it and it wants it. No problem with that whatsoever. But it's not everybody. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you are not part of a greater thing, or won't be part of a greater thing. You can be if you go look for it, and if you're prepared to put in the work. And that's all it takes.
I couldn't agree more, Matt. So alongside your role leading the business growth at Prodrive, obviously you're part of the team at Composites UK. So could you tell us a bit more about Composites UK and kind of in a nutshell sort of explain why you got involved and what it is you do to support that organisation?
Yeah, so Composites UK is a trade association for the composites industry. It's a membership organisation, and it's there to protect the interests and support the industry as a whole. It's obviously got some key objectives which are centred around, underpinned by its membership, but it's centred around supporting that industry and its members with policy, supply chain, skills and improvement, technology and promotion. But and in more recent years, we've added in sustainability, which is the most important aspect to it. So that becomes our temple, with sustainability at the top. And the organisation itself is 9 permanent staff, so it's very small indeed. But we have 375 members currently, and they range from 1 or 2 head operations, whether that's in consulting or whether that's just somebody making something from composites, whether that's a glass fibre moulding for construction, or other industry, right the way through to the likes of Princess Yachts down in on the south coast, who are members. They produce their own yachts. You know, they're members. We have a number of Formula One teams which are also members, and that's because the trade association is there. It provides information and support across all of those things to the membership. It's an information process, really, and the reason I kind of joined, and it's my role is a non-exec director, so I'm there to kind of steer the exec team, those 9 people, as to where and how we can do things better. And that's the reason I kind of put myself forward, nominated myself, and thankfully was voted in, because it's a nomination election type process. And I'm now in my 3rd term, and it was at the end of my 2nd term that the chief exec said to me, "Look, I was like the minister without portfolio. I was there from a manufacturing point of view, and kind of gave obviously insights into what's going on in manufacturing, and predominantly in the automotive sector. And he said to me, "Look, there's this thing that we've not done for a while, and it's to do with skills and workforce development." I says, "Well, great, yeah, I know nothing about skills." He says, "I know you, but that doesn't matter, apparently." and so I said, "Look, I'll take it on, because it's vital, and the composites industry is very much a human orientated business. It's not very automated, because it's generally used for lightweighting and to make very complex things. It's the original additive manufacturing. We put material into something. It's a molding process, and it requires human intervention to do that. And without that human intervention, really, we don't have a great deal. A lot of the composites industry's USPs, unique selling points, disappear if we're just going to bash things out of metal. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Then that's fine, but we're not, as a global movement, we're not going to achieve sustainability, because we've got to take weight out of things, and carbon fibre especially, and glass fibre are fantastic at doing that. Really, really good at taking weight out of things, which means you can make things more efficient, you can make things lighter and stronger, so we don't lose the benefits, we actually gain benefits of strength. But we need people to do that. And you know, the skills side of things is a huge challenge, and it's not, you know, we're not alone in this as an industry. It's in fact, I was struggling to think of an industry that is awash with skills. They're not. Every industry has skills shortage, which in itself creates a challenge. But if I can just give you some very quick headlines, Paul, just to give some scale on the composites industry for those that don't know it. The UK composites industry is £10.72 billion worth of turnover.
Wow.
It's an enormous figure. It employs 47,500 people, and if you do the equation, that represents 225,000 of revenue per employee. There are no other sectors that generate that kind of revenue per employee. The rest are significantly low. There's lots of there's zeros missing, and from there so the composites industry is really, really important. both to the UK economy, but also to, as I said, to the sustainability goals of the globe as well as the UK. So, all of that, I thought, yeah, okay, I'll take that on. I've got a voice, I've got some ideas, and I can pick up a phone, I can do the old traditional way.
Yeah.
And so I took that on and said, yeah, I'll do that. And so I report in, but I also do a bit of using my contacts and brute force, to be frank, and going off and saying, look, how do we get manufacturing into the education system? Because that's the route of getting a pipeline of skills. Before you get the skills, you have to have the people.
Absolutely.
And we've, if nobody knows about the composites industry, and a lot of people don't, and that's fine, I don't have a problem with that, then we've got to do something about it. If we don't have an industry. So one of the things that I've kind of initiated is to be associated with through sponsorship or to kind of connect with various organisations that work within schools. I don't go into schools apart from the odd one or two that I'll go present to about what we as Prodrive do or what the composites industry does. But that's not my day job. I have to do my day job, and so I'll do that as extra work. But there are a number of organisations spread across the country that work directly with schools and go in and tell them about engineering, and manufacturing. And manufacturing is great, and we've got to get back to that. It's an enormous ability for this country to be self-sufficient instead of importing. And we cannot continue to keep importing.
And I'll bang the drum again, Matt. We're the 8th largest manufacturing economy in the world.
We are indeed, yeah.
We knocked the French off that spot last year, so long may that continue.
Yeah, exactly.
No offense to my French colleagues. I've worked for a couple of very, very brilliant French companies over the years, but it's we need to shout about that. All of us, we have a responsibility to shout about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not manufacturing doesn't necessarily have the greatest image, and I think that was done because of what happened in the 70s and 80s, and there's no point going back to that. But from a PR point of view, manufacturing is not great within schools. There's lots of, the perception is there's lots more interesting things going on in internet based type activities, but manufacturing is the only sector which takes a raw material and creates a product and generates cash. Everything else just moves cash, and so it's vital. So one of the kind of the key things is that I was tasked with is how do we get more awareness within schools and whether that's within the education system, I should say. And so I've tackled it because of my background of not understanding university. And people say to me, "Oh yeah, I've got a 2-1." I'm like, "Yeah, I've no idea what that means. It doesn't mean anything to me. I ain't got a clue whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. I don't know." But so I said, "Well, I'll look at I'll concentrate on schools and see how we can do that." And then we have a group that also is obviously very academic based. So there's a group that does that, and I feed into that, and they feed into me. We work collaboratively. So yeah, I'm trying to create awareness across the school system, whether it's a public system or state schools. Not interested; it doesn't matter to me. But it's about creating awareness even in the very young at primary school that engineering and manufacturing are really, really interesting industries to be in. And as you said, we're the 8th largest manufacturer globally, we're the 5th largest economy in the world. But nobody ever tells people in schools, students in schools, about that. That never gets mentioned. And that we want to improve on that 8th place. We've got to 8th. We want to be 7th next. That's the goal. And so I've kind of started some initiatives with an organisation called F1 in schools. We're very fortunate in this country. We've got 6 out of 10 Formula 1 teams in this country, and Formula 1 is getting great PR nowadays. It's all over the television platforms and the internet-based platforms. 6 out of 10 F1 teams are based in this country, and there'll be a 7th because there's a company I know that are bidding to be the next Formula 1 team, and all of those companies employ engineers, whether they're fully trained engineers or whether they're like me, a backstreet engineer. They all want people with ideas. That's what engineers are. They're people with ideas, innovative people, and so that's where we've got head and shoulders opportunity against the rest of industry, because we do really, really exciting things with composites.
Absolutely.
America's Cup race, yacht race is taking place in Barcelona later this year, and the British boat is built in Portsmouth, made with composites, made in the UK, and the supply chain as well. It's not just these 6 F1 teams. There's probably another 250 companies that supply them in the Formula, who all need those said skills.
Privilege of having 1 or 2 companies in that supply chain as clients over the years as well, so it's a very interesting story that needs to be told. I don't know whether you saw that there was something that captured my attention a few years ago. It was something, I think it was Red Bull that did, and they did a video on YouTube. It was the journey of a bolt,
right? Yeah.
And that, I thought that was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
and that's the kind of thing we need more of, I think, to tell those stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are a couple of TV programs on mainstream media that how it's made is one of them, and Made in Britain is another one, and they're brilliant because they actually show you, how do you make a pen? The simplest things that we use every day. Somebody makes it. If you use it, somebody's made it.
Absolutely.
Or somebody's designed it. If you want to be in the design thing, if you want to be in that 3D space, it's all been engineered, and that's where we say manufacturing is the most exciting thing I've seen, because you can shape the future.
Yeah.
You're not following the future; you are the future, and you can shape it. And so,
absolutely.
So yeah, it's really exciting.
Matt, if I may, I've got a couple of questions I wanted to ask around the sustainability thing, because obviously it's a very high-profile agenda item for many people, companies, and specifically actually for young people these days.
Yes, absolutely.
One of the perceptions, I guess, that I have, and it's probably somewhat misplaced, is that with the composites industry, as you said, is not an industry where you see the sort of mass sort of adoption of automation technologies, like you do now in precision machining and things like that. It's very much more a hands-on process. But the other thing that I know from my old days of patching up motorcycle race fairings and things like that is it wasn't a particularly pleasant thing to do back in the day. You're often dealing with some very scratchy / smelly materials to help you do that. Lacquers and glass fibers and things that make you itch and all of that kind of thing. There's that, certainly that was my perception. Now, I know things have moved on, but one of the other things that's occurred to me is that when we're talking about sustainability, I guess I don't know how to describe it. There's 2 sides to the story here, because you mentioned one of them, which is obviously one of the benefits of using composite materials is to reduce, in simple terms, to reduce weight. So for a lighter weight, you get a given tensile strength, structural robustness to a component or a set of components in a subassembly. But on the other side, are there still challenges that need to be addressed in terms of the sustainability of the materials that are being used in that environment?
Yeah, very much so. So all of these materials require large amounts of energy to generate them. So certainly glass fiber. So I'm going to go back to the kind of the sovereign manufacturing capability. So that in this country there is one manufacturer of glass fiber, who are based just in the northwest. There is, in providing materials to the composites industry, there are no providers of carbon fiber in this country.
Wow.
Yeah. So there is one manufacturer of carbon fiber up in the northeast of Scotland, but the types of carbon fibers they use are not used in the composites industry. They go into other applications, electrical applications.
Right.
And I believe one of the other kind of products they go into is a certain vacuum manufacturer whose name begins with D.
Oh, okay. Yeah, based possibly in Wiltshire, possibly.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
And so, and if I take you right back to the late 1940s and early 50s, carbon fibre was first invented in this country. At least my research says it was. There's a dispute with America, but carbon fibre was invented in this country, and we don't produce it anymore. There were 6 licenses issued to various companies who could produce carbon fibre, and we don't make it anymore. So we buy that in from across the globe. Similarly, most of the glass fibre that's produced in this country is exported, and we buy in glass fibre from other countries, generally speaking, the Far East.
Right.
So we're at the mercy of exchange rates, shipping, and somebody else's decision to change price. We have no control over that whatsoever.
Right.
And so, from a sustainability point of view, we're moving materials across the globe to make lightweight things, which then get quite often sent back to those destination countries. So right. if we can produce those materials in this country, that makes them significantly more sustainable. But what our industry is trying to do, and certainly what Composites UK is trying to do, is to work with those manufacturers, and we are working with government as well to try and bring on board a manufacturer of carbon fibre into this country. And there is a greater plan that the destination of where that will be located, if it happens, will be powered by sustainable energy. It will be close to the sea, so it'll be on the coastal regions. It will have energy fed from wind turbines, and hopefully those wind turbines will have been manufactured in this country, whether that's on the Isle of Wight or whether that's in the Humberside region.
Yeah.
So we're trying to be as sustainable as we can. It's a long journey, but we are working with there are some fantastic companies working in sustainability. There is a UK company that takes fibres from the waste streams of the carbon fibre manufacturers and creates a second material, a reclaimed material, and we've used that to really good effect to make some vehicles with.
Okay.
So we're trying to get to circularity, so that we take, if we're generating fibres, if there's waste, let's use that waste. When we've manufactured the component, what can we do with it at the end of its life?
That makes sense.
So there's a number of processes at industrial R&D levels where they can reclaim those fibres, and the industry's done technology demonstrators to prove that we can make a second product from secondary fibres.
Yeah.
So these are all the things that people can come into the industry with fantastic ideas. Don't worry about your qualifications. It's your ideas, it's your thinking that we're interested in. And you can then help, as I said before, you can change what the shape of the industry is, and you can change the future so that it's more sustainable for everybody.
Sure.
So yeah, it's a very important industry within the sustainability activity. There are things that we as Prodrive Composites are working on, as well as the sustainability group within Composites UK are working on, to take both fibres from natural-based fibres, which have been around for donkey's years, actually. That flax was one of the very first composite materials. That's now seen a resurgence back into the composites industry. But there are others. There's hemp and jute, which again can be used. But we're working. We've got a number of Prodrive Composites has got a number of projects where we're working with collaborative R&D. So we're working with about 10 companies within one particular project, where they're deriving bio-based resins, some of which are already available, but we're working on the next ones. So it's very, very important that we get, taking waste materials. So sugar beet, which is what most of the granulated sugar is derived from. They use the sugar beet, which I think is just outside Newark, the source, and one company develops still an epoxy based resin, but 60%, sorry, 50% of it is bio-based. So it
Okay.
uses sugar beet. So again, we're using less of the kind of the petrol-based, the petroleum-based product, and that's part of us. We're not going to be able to change the world today or tomorrow, but we have to take those steps and take those steps as quickly as we can to get to that zero, that net zero. I don't think we will ever get to net zero. There will always be a carbon footprint.
Yeah.
But it's about getting there, getting to as near as we can, as quickly as we can, and using the bio-based resins, whether that's from sugar beet or from waste from the other areas of agriculture. That works well. And for me, that is the future. I don't know enough about it, but young people in our country, I'm sure, do, and we'd welcome their support. Come along and tell us what to do, please.
Yeah. So Matt, that's a nice segue, really. We've talked there about some of the changes in the use of raw materials in the composite sector for the future, but let's talk about your aims for your working group. That working group that's engaging with education and indirectly, as you say, with young people. Where do you hope that's all going to be if we say we were looking 3, 4, 5 years down the line?
Well, I guess the plan, as I said, mentioned earlier, is to create a pipeline of skills so that we've got a continual feed of skills, ideas coming into the industry to push it forward. We've got an aging population in the country, and our industry is no different to that. I've got grey hair. Most of the kind of
you and me both.
Most of the people in senior roles within most businesses have got grey hair. We want to encourage. We need to get younger people into it, and they can come from different industries. As I said, I'm on my third industry, if you like, but it could be a first choice, it could be a second choice, or it could be a third choice of industry. It doesn't really matter. What we're interested in is people with the right attitude. The skills we can give you, that's not a problem. That's always, any industry will have that sell, but we've got to create an environment where people want to come and work for us, that we retain those people as much as we can as an industry, and to upskill those people that are already in that industry, because if we can have an external pipeline and an internal pipeline, if you like, within the industry, of people going from the shop floor, working their way up, and within Prodrive, some of our, in fact, 3 of our design engineers and 2 of our manufacturing engineers have all worked their way up from their shop floor. That's where they start. You learn the basic principles. You learn the understanding of what to do, what not to do. You learn how to cooperate and work with and collaborate with people around you. And it's about having that in the whole ecosystem of the skills, because it creates social mobility. People like me who didn't have a great start at school can actually get to a reasonably senior position. There might always be the one with the imposter syndrome within the room, but if you're thick-skinned like me, you soon get on with it, and ultimately they're all people. They've all got the same hopes and fears. So it's about having that pipeline and getting. I want to get manufacturing back on the front page of the newspapers if people read them, but certainly on the front page of things being shouted about as positive, and that's one of the things that we've really got to do, and that's about PR. It's about doing. This is a fantastic opportunity. That's why I jumped at it, to come and talk to people. I talk a lot. Come and talk to people about manufacturing and what that's my passion. I just love it. I love going up and going to work, doing what I need to do in order to make other people's lives better. Because manufacturing, that's what manufacturing does, whether it's because of the product that we produce, or whether it's because they're part of the manufacturing process and therefore they benefit economically from that.
It solves problems and improves people's quality of life. And I think that's also why I'm so passionate about the sector that we both work in, albeit we're in different parts of the sector.
Yeah,
And you know, that passion is shared across our company, or our group of companies as well. You know, nobody solves a problem unless somebody designs and makes something, and then somebody else sells it,
absolutely.
and then somebody supports the product.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what
It's
we're all
yeah,
about.
that's that ecosystem. It doesn't matter where you fit into the chain, but you have an important role to play. Everybody has an important role to play. Don't matter
Absolutely.
don't matter where
Absolutely.
you are in your on your career path.
Absolutely, Matt. Well, thank you so much for sharing your passion about the composite sector with us, Matt. It's been a
All
real
right.
pleasure. So, before we wrap up today's session, I always like to get a sense of what people get up to outside of work if they have any spare time. So, you know, what do you what you know, outside of composites, what sort of gets you excited when you're not working?
Um, well, I've always played rugby. Since I was about 9, I think it was. I fell into that by mistake as well. Turned up on the wrong pitch, but there you go. Um, maybe so. What that tells me in life is sometimes making a mistake actually benefits you. So,
Yeah, are you a league or a union man, Matt?
well, I played when I was at school. It was league.
Yeah,
Certainly in the middle school, I was in a 3 school system. It was league, but then when I went to high school, it was union. So I played rugby, full contact rugby for the best part of 32, 33 years.
right.
Um, and I can, like most people who get to the age of just before 40, you kind of knee goes, and the physio says to me, no, you're gonna have to stop. You can't play that game anymore. So it was like I stopped, um, and but I still love playing. I had a lesson for salespeople. I had a heart attack in 2018
Oh
because
gosh.
I stopped playing rugby, and I stopped doing most other things. So that wasn't good. So I kind of once I'd had the heart attack and I'd recovered, and again that's just a warning sign. It wasn't a cardiac arrest. It was a that hurts. might,
Yeah.
might need to do something about that. I said, spoke to my GP later on. What's the best thing to do? He said, well, get exercising. Do some gentle exercise. Go ride a bike or something like that. And I'm like, okay. And eventually I found it wasn't until kind of after COVID. I did a lot of walking, so that was my exercise post 2018 was walking. But then just after COVID, I found found locally there's a league and various leagues around dotted, and they're actually it's across the UK. Is tag rugby.
Oh yes. Yeah.
So and it's a rugby league based one. So it's thankfully you get to stop once you've been tagged, which is good for people like me who are old. But yeah, so I play tag rugby
Brilliant.
once a week, and it's incredibly fast. And they're all a lot younger than me and a lot fitter than me, and can run. But I was always quite fast when I played. I played contact rugby and I was in the backs. So I love playing that. I just love it. It's just fantastic.
Fantastic.
It gets the heart going in a good way.
Yeah.
So I do that. I do that once a week, and then I'm also I think it's about 26 years I've been involved in an organisation which has charity at its heart. So it's a global organisation for men, this particular one, where we give time and our money out of our own pockets. And as a collective in the UK, it's the second behind the National Lottery. It's the second biggest donator to charity and good causes in this
Oh,
country.
fantastic.
So I've been part of that. Again, just doing a little bit, but it's all about my whole kind of. It's about helping people.
Yeah.
That I actually do stand in supermarket car parks and entrances and rattle tins and collect for good causes, in particular charities connected with cancer research and helping those at the end of their life.
Yeah.
When you get to our age, Paul, you lose people.
Yes. Yeah,
and
I've lost a
it's
couple of friends over the last sort of 10 years, so yeah, I get it.
yeah, it's really painful, and
Yeah,
if you're going through it, you have my utmost sympathy. Um, but so I try to, there's an organisation that helped both my parents at the end of their life. So again, give me standing out in the cold for 2-3 hours, collecting money and smiling and putting on daft outfits. That don't bother me. I'm
no,
quite happy
fair
to do
enough.
that if somebody benefits, if somebody else benefits at a time of need, and so that I'm all about helping people.
That's
That's
fantastic.
my entire thing is about helping people make a
Brilliant.
difference in their life. So yeah, it's
Thanks for sharing that, mate.
that's what I do. Um, I've got a 16-year-old daughter who's doing a GCSEs and also goes to about 12 dance classes a week. So that gives me a reason to go to work.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. I'm sure. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Matt. So, how can our podcast listeners get in touch with you at Composites UK and indeed Prodrive?
Well, Composites UK has its own website, a really informative website, which has got lots of information in there, both which in the wider domain, but there's also a membership area as well. So you can become a member for very little money. The membership fees are really really good value, whether you're a big company or whether you're an individual. So the website for Composites UK is compositesuk.co.uk. So you can get in touch with them. The email address is info@compositesuk.co.uk. Just put it into your search engine, Composites UK. You'll find them. You can get in touch with me through there, or onto the Prodrive Prodrive website. Look at the composites pages. My details are listed on there. I'll be happy to talk to you. But yeah, this is the skills thing is really important to this country, and we have to push it, and we're competing in a very, very competitive environment.
Yes.
But engineering and manufacturing is the most exciting environment. So come and join it.
Couldn't agree more, Matt. So, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today on the Leaders in STEM podcast with Intergage. You can find us on LinkedIn at Intergage Marketing Engineers or on our website at marketing-engineers.co.uk. Thank you so much again for your time and interest today, Matt. It's been absolutely brilliant.
No, really enjoyed it, Paul. It's been fantastic. Thank you very much indeed for the opportunity again.